What's going on YouTube? So as you can tell from the side, this is not your ordinary Cadillac. This is the all-new Cadillac LYRIQ, the first electric Cadillac in the lineup. So, is this the modern luxury electric SUV you've been waiting for? Let's go ahead and find out. So what's under the hood of this LYRIQ? Well, actually nothing, because there's not a frunk on this. Cadillac said they did that intentionally to maximize space in the back versus having the frunk in the front. But let's talk about the powertrain, which of course is not related to what is under the hood. 102 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack on board. You have two different power outputs. It's going to be 340 horsepower with rear wheel drive, or you can get an optional dual motor all-wheel drive system, and that's going to give you 500 horsepower.
And as far as the range figures for those two, it's 308 miles with rear drive or 307 miles with all-wheel drive. Now, that doesn't really make a lot of sense considering it's the same size battery pack, but it has been verified by Cadillac.
That is what Cadillac says on their website.
Don't blame me, 307 miles for the all-wheel drive system.
Now, this is a Cadillac after all, so you're probably expecting a really comfortable ride, and we're going to test that out later on in the test drive, as well as get our signature sound level reading. But first, let's take a look at this futuristic exterior. Now, before I get into this exterior design, I do want to mention something that's different for 2024, and that's that Cadillac is expanding the trim structure for the LYRIQ. So you'll now be able to get a technology model for a more affordable price point. You'll also be able to get some sport trim levels if you want a little bit more of an aggressive look. That effectively will just take the chrome you see on this luxury model and smoke it out. But now let's talk about this futuristic design, because it does look like nothing else on the road. Up here in the front, we have a very large face. Of course, this is an electric vehicle though, so you don't really need much airflow other than these little vents down here at the bottom. All the rest of this is going to be sealed off, and some versions of this do have an illuminated grille. We also have an illuminated Cadillac badge right there in the center. Now, additionally, these headlights are also very futuristic looking. So as you can see, we've got a multi-part unit. So up here at the top, we have our dynamic turn signal indicator. Separated out and running vertically, we have the signature Cadillac stacked LED headlights. So you'll have standard LEDs, they'll be adaptive on luxury and sport models, and you also have your DRL running down the side of that. This is kind of the element that really brings you back to the Cadillac lineup and connects it to things like the Escalade. Now, moving on to the rear design, honestly, this is even more unique than the front end look. It just has a very futuristic design that looks nothing like any existing Cadillac.
Yeah, just looking at it, it's like, wow. Yeah. I mean, not in a bad way. It certainly is super futuristic, but it is a lot to take in, especially here in person. Now, a couple things I want to point out. The top of your brake light is actually going to be up here. You have an integrated spoiler. Due to the slope of the rear glass, you do not need a rear wiper. And let's check out these taillights, because these are the most unique element about the LYRIQ's rear design. Of course, you do have the design that actually goes all the way through the side, but let's see if all the elements are LED. So we do have LED brake light, LED reverse light, and then our turn signal indicator is through here. So they're going to have three separated elements for all three of those things, and they're all going to be LED, which I certainly appreciate. I do also want to point out they have the dynamic ability as well. So they have that really cool sweeping design when you actually use the turn signal indicator. Now, as far as other things I want to point out, we do have our modern electric Cadillac logo right down here. And then dropping down to the lower area, of course, this is an EV, no exposed exhaust outlets. One thing I want to point out is for towing, it's going to be 3,500 pounds, but do keep in mind it's for all-wheel drive only.
Now, as we move on to the wheels, you do have standard 20-inch alloy wheels on the LYRIQ. You can also get available 22-inch alloys if you want something a little bit flashier for your LYRIQ model, but these, I think, look quite nice with a lot of contrasting elements. You also have a gloss black finish that goes around the wheel arches and along the bottom of the vehicle. Now, as I come up here, you press the Cadillac logo, and that's going to open up your charge port. So, like I mentioned earlier, the battery is 102 kilowatt hours, and as far as some charging specs, DC fast charging, Cadillac says you can get 77 miles of range in about 10 minutes of time. But we'll talk a little bit more about ranges and stuff like that later on in the test drive. Taking a look at our mirrors, gloss black finish on board. We've got all the features as well. So we have auto dimming, we have power folding, heating, and blind spot monitoring.
Now, in terms of the length of this LYRIQ, I think one of the things I was surprised by was just how long this vehicle is. It's 196.7 inches, which is quite a bit larger than something like a Lexus RZ for reference, and seeing it here in person, it seems like a lot more substantial of a product than what it looks like in pictures. Now, it is going to still be a short SUV. It's not like super tall or anything, and it has that very sleek design here at the side going into that sloping rear design. Now, as far as other things I want to point out, you can get a two-tone roof option on the LYRIQ. You have to get specific trim levels and colors if you want that. Now, I do also want to talk about the safety systems for this LYRIQ. Cadillac is including 3 out of your 4 active safety features as standard on every single LYRIQ model. Additionally, if you go for the luxury or sport 2 and 3 trim levels, you will have their really advanced Super Cruise system. So that's certainly a very nice feature I like to see on this LYRIQ, because obviously this vehicle competes with stuff like a Tesla, and Super Cruise is a better system than that Tesla Autopilot system. But guys, that's going to wrap up the exterior design of this Cadillac LYRIQ. If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
And now let's go ahead and check out the interior. First off, we'll take a look at our key fob. This is actually just the standard Cadillac key fob. Nothing's really different here. It does have the little metal accent, and you can remote start from the fob as well. Now, look at this interior. Really futuristic, just like with the exterior. But before we get into all the details, as always, I want to start off by talking about material and color choices. So, with the LYRIQ, you're going to have standard IntelliLux. That is actually a faux leather, and that's what we have on today's model. It is very realistic feeling, though. I'm super impressed by this. Soft, supple. We have perforations and a lot of stitching details. As far as color choices, you have black or gray with the blue accenting that runs through the middle with a little splash of color. I like that. The new Sport 3 model will offer Napa leather, and that one also has an interesting color choice added called Juniper, which is a green. Now, as we turn over to the door trim, this is where our seat controls are going to be. So we have a standard 8-way power adjusting seat with 4-way lumbar support located right here. This also is our control for the massaging abilities that this model has. Plus, we have standard 2-person memory seating located right there. Now, as I climb inside, I want to point out this animation that pops up. It's really, really cool because it greets you with basically your charge status. So as you can see, you have all these light bars that go across. Each one of these represents some of your charge status, and it shows you all the way until you have that full battery. So as you can see, we have almost an entirely full battery. Just a really cool look. I definitely like that. Now, let's get into the overall cabin materials, because this was something that really kind of shocked Mason and I when we got inside of this LYRIQ for the first time. So coming over here to our door trim, first of all, we have a leather material through our armrest portion. We also have a big metal speaker grill that runs right through there. As we move above that, we have a beautiful open pore wood trim. We also have an aluminum door handle, and it is going to be soft touch along the top. Now, as we go through the upper dash, this is all a soft touch material. Through here is a genuine textured aluminum. You have more leatherette that runs through here. We have genuine open pore wood through here, knurled metal controls, and overall, this honestly might be the nicest Cadillac interior that they have ever made. It is absolutely stunning. It's definitely right up there with the Escalade, but guys, this is about half the price, so can't be more impressed by the interior of this LYRIQ. But let's go ahead and fire it up. You do have a traditional push-button start. But like always, let's go ahead and get into a first-person perspective so we can get up close and personal with all of these details. I won't wait any longer from the very beginning to go ahead and talk about this display system because it is very, very unique. So this is a massive 33-inch curved display setup. And one of the really interesting things about this is, unlike the display setup you get in the Escalade, this is actually going to be one seamless screen, whereas in the Escalade you actually have 3 separate screens that are under one housing. That makes this look even more impressive than it does in the Escalade. As you can see, really, really thin, and just kind of all comes together to make a really, really cool look. Especially right now, I've got the 2 maps up side by side. But let's go back over here and talk about the gauge cluster. So as you can see, we do have the digital gauge cluster, of course. Off to the side here is where you're going to be able to adjust the design of it. This is also where you turn on and off your headlights as well. But if I click this button, we can change between 4 different styles. So that was the map. We also have the clean, energy, and more of a traditional gauge arrangement if you prefer to have that look. Now pulling back, we come to our steering wheel. We do have a unique steering wheel for the LYRIQ, really thick rimmed, also very nicely padded, some piano black accents on board. And then we have a series of physical and touch capacitive buttons. So things like your steering wheel heating, which is available on most models, you can just tap that. You do have haptic feedback to tell you tap that capacitive button, and then you still have like your physical volume knob right over there. As far as the wheel itself, it is going to be power, tilt, and telescoping as standard equipment. And of course, you do also have your sensor right there for the Super Cruise system. Now let's go ahead and check out interior storage. I think you'll be impressed with what you'll find. So opening up our center console, nice amount of space in here. It is plenty deep, felt lined on all the sides as well, and we have a 12-volt outlet. But let's test it out. Let's put these coupons in here. Let's see if they fit, and they do, no problem whatsoever. Now before I shut that, I do want to point out you've got a wireless phone charging pad. This is the design where you slide your phone inside of it, and it really holds it in place nicely. Of course, you got your 2 cup holders right there, and then up in front of that, you've got this absolutely massive amount of space here. You can throw just about anything that you want in this area, and it does have a nice lip here, so it will hold it in place. You have another USB port up there, plus you have a storage shelf right there that can kind of slide out, and you can put your small or maybe more valuable belongings inside of there, close it up, and they're hidden away. Now, unlike any other Cadillac product, we do have a column electronic style shifter up here. This operates a little bit different as well, so you're going to press out and then down for drive. In drive, of course, as an EV, you don't have paddle shifters, but you do have 1 paddle over here on this side of the steering wheel. This is for controlling your brake regen, and 1 pedal drive is an option here on the LYRIQ as well. Go up for reverse, and when you go into reverse, most models are going to find this 360-degree camera system. As you can see, you do have the overhead view as well as the traditional view, and you can switch between a few different angles right over here. We don't have the 3D drone view, though, like we have in the Escalade. And then just press the end of the stalk for park. Now, returning back down here to the console, you do have a control knob for your infotainment system, although it is also a touchscreen. You have some shortcuts for the infotainment system right there, and then in the very front of that, you have a volume knob for your audio system. So standard on the Tech model is going to be a 7-speaker audio system. However, the Sport and Luxury 2 and 3 models, those are going to come with this 19-speaker AKG studio sound system. So let's go ahead and give that a sample. Very nice, very nice. Overall sound quality is fantastic. And I do want to point out that you have speakers that are set inside of the headrest, so you can see the perforations right there. All right, let's return over here and talk about our climate controls. Now, this is one of the things I really like about the LYRIQ's interior is that you still have a lot of physical buttons that you can push, even though you have the large displays. Some of those buttons are located with the climate controls, which are either dual zone as standard or available 3-zone automatic climate. very nice metal knobs for adjusting your temperature. It's all nice and easy to use. And of course, your heated and ventilated seats are over there on the door trim. I already pointed those out. This is one big vent here, and you control it like so. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the main infotainment system now. So this is a new version of the Cadillac Q system. This is based off of Android Automotive OS. So you'll notice things like our built-in Google Maps I have pulled up right now. You also have a lot more Google apps built in, including your Google Play Store and your Google Assistant. Now inside of this system, you do still have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay if you want to use that. And of course, you have dedicated things for giving you charging information, setting different types of routes, all types of things like that. Now you do have a few vehicle controls located inside the display. One of those things is your glove box release, since there's not a handle to open it up. You also have your universal remotes integrated into the display instead of up here on your mirror. However, you do still have an auto dimming mirror, and this is also the rear camera mirror. So if you flip that switch, it gives you the live camera feed. And now let's go ahead and open up our sunroof. So there's some things to talk about for the 2024 model year. First of all, you do have a standard fixed glass panoramic sunroof with the power sunshade. So as you can see, that's what we have. It is going back right now. But new for 2024, you now have the availability to get a opening panoramic sunroof instead. So that will give you the split inside, and then the front panel would open up.
All right, guys, come on back here in the all-new LYRIQ's rear seat. Now, as far as this area is concerned, I've been very impressed. Now, you're probably getting the hint that this LYRIQ is very luxurious from the front area, and it's also going to be luxurious in the rear area, but I'm also really impressed with the amount of space that we're going to have on this LYRIQ. We're looking at 39.6 inches of legroom, 37.7 inches of headroom. So I'd say if you're more concerned about a certain figure, the headroom would get you if you're like really tall, but overall it's certainly not bad, and this nice moonroof here makes it feel open and airy. The legroom is very impressive though. As far as how much space there is between my knees and the seat back, we're looking at about 9.5 inches. I'm 5'9" for reference, and Drew is 5'8". My feet can also easily slide up all the way up underneath the seat, so you can slide all the way in. And then I do also want to point out, check out the back of this seat back. It's actually wrapped in a nice leatherette finish. So this is, part of just how luxurious this LYRIQ feels on the inside is small stuff like that is thought of in this all-new model. Now, dropping to our features here in the center, we do not have controls on this particular model. You can get that optionally for your own climate controls, but we do still keep the vents, which is nice. Dropping down below that, we have some Cadillac branding, 2 USB-C ports. We do also have a household style outlet. You can also get heated rear seats on the higher-end LYRIQ models, and then we do have a nice center armrest with cup holders inside. Let's turn to your door trim. The door trim is going to be very nicely finished. Soft touch on the upper part, more of that beautiful wood trim with a lot of intricate details in there. And then dropping down, we do also have leather on the armrest portion, more metal trim, metal speaker grills, and we also have bottle storage. Now, walking up to the tailgate on the LYRIQ, we do have a hands-free power one. Just kick your foot under the bumper, and it will open right up. And as you can see, once we get inside of here, we mentioned at the front that this car does not have a frunk, and Cadillac said that was to maximize the amount of rear cargo area, and indeed we are going to have a lot of it. 21 cubic feet behind the second row seats. If we fold those down, we do have a maximum of 61 cubic feet of cargo capacity on this LYRIQ model. So that is actually a really good amount of space for an EV. As you can see right through there, I mean, there is a lot of room in this LYRIQ. I'd say the thing that is probably going to bother you the most is that this is a pretty short and sloped off roof design, so you're not going to be able to stack too high, but certainly a good amount of space for this model. Now, I did bring my measuring tape here, so let's see how much space there is from the front seat back all the way to the rear of the cargo area. We're looking at a solid 75 inches of space. And then as far as how wide it is, we are looking at about 40 inches of space in terms of the width. Now, as far as other things, underneath of the cargo floor right here, we do have a really deep storage area. I'd imagine this is good for a charging cable, something like that. Up in front of that, you do also have additional space. It is worth noting, no spare tire on the LYRIQ, but we do have LED lighting and a 12-volt power outlet. Well, guys, we are behind the wheel of the all-electric Cadillac LYRIQ. So certainly we are very excited to be behind the wheel of this, see what this all-electric Caddy is all about. We will be talking about a lot of different things in this test drive, including getting our signature sound level reading, as well as just talk about driving dynamics, comfort level, all of those things, which I'm sure you're very curious about. So let's go ahead and dive into it with a first acceleration. Nice.
Not too bad. So that was a good acceleration above a little bit over 60 miles per hour with this Cadillac LYRIQ. So we're in the rear-wheel drive version, so that means you have a single electric motor and 340 horsepower. Now, like we mentioned in the spec dump, you can get up to 500 horsepower if you go for the dual motor all-wheel drive system. But as far as this one, really it seems like plenty of power. Of course, this is not, designed to be like Tesla Model Y performance level type of vehicle at all. That is going to be a fast acceleration if you're used to a traditional internal combustion vehicle. But compared to like super fast EVs, it's not going to blow you away.
Now, the all-wheel drive version, on the other hand, that does have a lot more power. That dual motor all-wheel drive setup has 500 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque. So we'll talk about this a little bit more in the pricing section, but when you go for the all-wheel drive model, you're not merely adding all-wheel drive to this exact setup. You're actually getting the dual motor setup, which gives you a lot more power than this rear drive model. So that's something to keep in mind if you're really wanting that full electric, super powerful option. I would go for the all-wheel drive, and honestly, it's not as expensive of an option as you would think. I believe it's about $3,500 to opt on all-wheel drive.
Yeah, and Cadillac has said that they intend to give you both rear-wheel drive and dual-motor all-wheel drive options for all of the trim levels. So there it is, right off the line there. Yeah, really nice and quick.
Now, the 0 to 60 on this LYRIQ is rated at, not officially, but rated at Car and Driver and Motor Trend at 5.7 seconds. So certainly that's very quick for an SUV. Like Drew said, this is not going to be like a Tesla Model Y performance competitor in the rear drive form. But if you're coming from like an XT5 or an XT6, I mean, this is going to be faster and feel a lot faster because you have that electric torque.
Now, while we're sitting here at this red light, let's talk a little bit more about the General Motors Ultium architecture. So what is this made out of? Well, it's got a 102 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. That's kind of the foundation of it, and that's a really large size battery pack. This, of course, is a pretty large SUV. That's how you're able to get still such good performance as well as such good range, which we'll talk about in just a second.
And you do have some form of noise for the electric motors.
There's a little bit of a sound effect going into place, but it's nothing really too much. It's mostly going to be very silent, which I think is what you want in a Cadillac. I do also want to mention that this has active noise cancellation. This is the latest version of the Cadillac system, so it's going to be, of course, using the speaker system to kind of counteract road noise, wind noise, different things that might come inside the cabin.
And we will be getting our sound level reading in just a second. But before we get our noise level reading, I do want to talk about your ride quality for this LYRIQ. I think this is really one of the big sticking points about this vehicle, is that it is a Cadillac, so it's a luxury brand. So if you compare it to a Kia EV6 or a Hyundai Ioniq 5, you're going to notice that this ride's a lot softer, it's a lot more comfortable and more luxurious feeling. You know, a lot of these EVs are costing about the same amount of money. We'll talk about the pricing in just a second, but this is definitely going to be your comfortable option if you're wanting an electric EV. And I love the ride quality. It's doing a phenomenal job of soaking up the bumps. These seats feel like I'm sitting on my couch at home. Yeah. I absolutely love that experience. So if that sounds good to you, you're definitely going to enjoy this LYRIQ's ride.
Yeah, think about this more in terms of like a classic Cadillac versus some of their really high performance vehicles they put out recently, like the V Blackwing. This is definitely going to be very luxury oriented. All right, so we're going to do an acceleration here in the sport mode, see if that feels any different. A little bit more throttle response, feels a little quicker. I think the biggest difference is I think they dialed up the sound effect.
Yeah.
So you have like a little bit more of a feedback as you accelerate. But we'll jump back into the touring mode and
get our sound level reading. We're going 55 miles an hour. Looks like we've settled in at 53.1 decibels. And as far as how that compares to all other EVs we've tested on the channel, this is one of the quietest. It's going to be in the top 3 quietest EVs that we've ever tested on the channel. Really only being bested by some of the Mercedes EQ products, which do cost a lot more than this.
So we went around that corner there just to demonstrate that this is not a sporty product. Like I was saying earlier, this is definitely geared towards that nice, comfortable Cadillac feel, which I think is the right move, to be honest. There's definitely a market for the high-performance stuff. They've got the Blackwings, but this being an electric vehicle, they really emphasize being quiet and comfortable.
And what should you expect when it comes to range for this LYRIQ? Well, it's going to be very solid range. Now, it depends on what you're comparing this vehicle to, but it is going to be at the very upper end of the segment when it comes to the range figures. Definitely worlds better than the Lexus RZ. We're looking at 308 miles with the rear drive version. If you opt for all-wheel drive, surprisingly so, as you heard me at the beginning say, it's 307 miles. Now, these are GM estimated figures, has not been officially EPA tested, so take everything with that in mind, especially for the all-wheel drive one.
Yeah, the all-wheel drive is not in production quite yet, but it is coming into production very soon.
Yeah, but over 300 miles of range is a very impressive figure. It's definitely going to be something that you will enjoy and be able to take on road trips with that Super Cruise system. And one of our other signature elements is our airball and slam dunk. Drew, what is our slam dunk for this new LYRIQ?
Yeah, the slam dunk has got to be this cabin. You know, Cadillac, they've taken some flack in the past for part sharing with some General Motors products, and the Escalade really kind of changed that. The Escalade was a very, very premium cabin. Well, I'm really shocked when we got inside this LYRIQ, even though this, as equipped, is like half the price of an Escalade, the cabin is really just as nice, in some ways even nicer. There is genuinely beautiful, high-quality materials on every surface that you touch, and unique technology that's not shared with any General Motors product. So I'm very proud and happy with this Cadillac cabin.
Yeah. And for our airball, this car is really solid through and through, but the one thing that really stands out to me is just the delayedness of this and the availability of this LYRIQ. You know, the first models are just now coming to dealerships, and this car was supposed to be out a long time ago. They had to transition a lot of people's orders from 2023 to 2024. I really wish Cadillac was just able to get this car out when they promised it was going to be able to come out and be able to really ramp up production so that you can get this in the hands of as many customers as really wants this LYRIQ.
Right. But once they get that figured out, I think it's worth the wait. Lastly here, I want to mention that you do have one pedal drive, so if you press that button in the vehicle controls, you can just let off the gas pedal and you will go ahead and slow down to a complete stop. So it's just kind of up to you what you prefer. if you're driving around normally like I was most of this test drive, it really has a kind of traditional feel. So you'll easily be able to get out of your, say, gas-powered XT5 and hop into this, and it wouldn't be too much of like a different learning curve or feel.
The last thing to talk about is the warranty. For your 50,000 miles for your basic warranty, 8 years, 100,000 miles for the battery componentries. You also get 1 year of complimentary maintenance with the Cadillac LYRIQ. And let's talk price for the all-new LYRIQ. Now, as far as this is concerned, I am very impressed, and I'll tell you why in just a second. So, the tech model is going to start at $58,590, which is a very competitive starting point. The luxury is $62,690, sport $63,190. Those are for the rear drive models. If you want all-wheel drive, that's going to add about an additional $3,500 to all of those. But do keep in mind, you get a lot more power with that, a lot more than just all-wheel drive. Now, as far as what I'm really impressed by, that would be your tax credit, because this vehicle is manufactured in the United States. It's classified as an SUV, which does mean you qualify for $7,500. So, in essence, you could really be looking at a base point of just above $50,000 for a tech rear drive model when you factor in that tax credit, which is very, very impressive for an EV with this much luxury. Well, guys, that's where we're going to leave off on this review of the 2024 Cadillac LYRIQ Luxury. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By doing so, you're going to get notified on some of our most recent content. We have a ton of cars scheduled on, that are cool coming up, so you won't want to miss out on those. Also, if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support, because you make this all possible. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.